Here we go. Here we go. God damn. Here we go. What up? What up? Woo. What up? What up? God damn, man. Sorry for the technical difficulties. God damn. One day I'm gonna learn how to use a computer. One day I'm gonna learn how to use a fucking computer. Man, oh man, I spent the last maybe 10, maybe 20 minutes just trying to get shit worked out, man, with this whole computer situation. But we here. Fuck it, we here. You know what I'm saying? We here to talk some big boy boxing shit. We fucking here. You know what I'm saying? Sorry for the technical difficulties. God damn. But again, we are here. We're going to talk some big boy boxing shit. Welcome to Talk Your Shit Boxing, episode 4. The fights I want to see ASAP. And you on the realest motherfucking boxing channel there is, Box or Die. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you like the channel. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that like button so we can continue to keep doing what we're doing. But we're here to talk some big boy boxing shit, man. Hold on. Let me make sure. Well, can you hear me? Oh, man. Okay. You can hear me. I got worried for a second. I thought I said all that shit for no goddamn reason. I was about to get mad. I was about to get pissed. But again, we here, man. We here in the building, man. We're going to talk some real big boy boxing shit, man. It's going to be a real fun episode of Talk Your Shit Boxing, man, because instead of us talking shit about people and all this old shit, we're going to be talking about the fights we want to see. You see the motherfucking thumbnail. We're going to be talking about the fights that we want to see, or the fights I want to see, more specifically, goddamn. And I'm going to tell you why these are the fights that I want to see and that type of thing. We're going to go through that. We're going to go down that road. But that's the topic. We're going to be talking about fights. We're going to be talking about matchups. We're going to be talking about styles. We're going to be talking about all that technical boxing shit that we really didn't get to talk about in the last few weeks because we were too busy talking shit about all the bullshit that's going on in the sport of boxing. You know what I'm saying? And we're not going to stop talking shit about these motherfuckers that's ducking and dodging and doing all this old pussy shit. But we're going to change the narrative a little bit this week. We're going to talk about some of the fights that we want to see. We're going to break down some styles. We're going to do all that good shit, man. So buckle up and let's go ahead and talk some big boy boxing shit. You know what I'm saying? Let's do it. Let's fucking do it, man. So as you know, before we begin to cook, before we start cooking, okay, before we do that, we have to make sure we set the table. We got to make sure that we prepare ourselves, that we set the mood, okay? It's a very particular mood that we got to set before we dig into the meat and potatoes of what the fuck we're going to be talking about tonight. So we're going to set the mood. You feel me? We're going to set the mood. All right, so like I mentioned, in this video, we're going to be talking about fights that I want to see and things like that. Fights I want to see ASAP because they're just good fucking fights. So here's the thing, right? The fights I'm going to be talking about, they're not necessarily the fights that you would think, okay? They're not necessarily the fights that you would think, okay? All right, the biggest fights are out there aren't necessarily the best fights out there. Okay, let me say that shit one more time, goddamn. The biggest fights out there aren't necessarily the best fights out there. Okay? So with that in mind, we're going to be talking about the best fights out there. Okay? Although a lot of fights should happen for legacy reasons, for credibility reasons, for reasons to find out who the best in the divisions are. You know what I'm saying? There are a lot of fights that should happen. But for the sake of this video, for the sake of this live, what we're doing right now, we're talking about the best fights. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about the best fights. So I say that to say this. Let's bring it back. I say that to say this. Okay? One more time. I say that to say this. Okay? All right? styles make fights. You heard it. I heard it. Everybody's heard that saying before. But what does that shit mean? And what does that shit mean to the fact that we're looking at the best fights? Styles make fights. So when I say that, if I'm looking at the best fights, to me, the best fights are going to be always, and history has shown us this time and time again, that the best fights always consist of the boxer versus the puncher. The boxer versus the puncher always makes for the best fights. The boxer, the guy who's going to be fighting on the outside, who's going to be bobbing and weaving and being slick, and the guy that's going to be putting his head down low, digging in and looking to cut off the ring and looking to dig to the body. Those are going to be the best fights out there. You know what I'm saying? Those are going to be the best fights out there. Are they the fights? Are these fights? Are these the fights that we need right now in boxing? Some of them are. Some of them are the fights that we need right now in boxing. Matter of fact, we need all these fights. Okay. But what I mean to say is these aren't the most important fights in the division. The most important fights, not division, but these aren't the most important fights in boxing. The most important fights are the best fighting the best. But for entertainment purposes, we're talking about the best fights that are going to happen. So that's what we're going to discuss to see. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to have some fucking fun. Okay, we're going to talk some real boxing shit, man. No purses tonight. None of that bullshit. No fucking money splits. No goddamn promotional companies. No networks. None of that bullshit tonight. Tonight, we're strictly talking about boxing. We're dissecting styles. We're talking the best versus the best. Well, not the best versus the best. Well, yeah, the best versus the best, but we're talking boxing. This live right now is boxing. You know what I'm saying? Let me check the comment section. Let me see if anybody talking some big boy shit. You know what I'm saying? I'll put something in there for y'all too, man. You know what I'm saying? So. It. So. Okay. All right. So we're going to be real interactive tonight, man. We're going to be real interactive, man. So before I start giving out my list, is there anybody out there in the highways and the byways who have some suggestions for the best fights? Okay. For the best fights before I'm doing things a little different. Anybody got any suggestions for the best fights out there? Give y'all a few minutes to respond. If not, I'm going to go ahead and keep this thing pushing. Give y'all a few minutes. Yes, sir. Talking some boxing shit tonight, boy. I'm happy. I'm happy, man. All that political bullshit, man. That shit does not make me smile, man. That shit does not lighten my mood at all to talk about that political bull ass shit, man. It really does not. You could tell I'm a real boxing ass nerd because I like this style shit. I like the matchups and shit like that. That's what I want to talk about. Let's get into that. Let's get into that. All right, well, time's up. Fuck it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cook, man. I'm going to start giving you guys some of my best matchups, okay? And I'm going to explain why I like the matchup. I'm going to explain on some of these fights, I'm going to explain some backstory. I'm going to talk about a little bit of who I think will win, but not too much of that because the fights aren't solid yet. But I just want to emphasize that these are good fights based on the styles and, you know what I mean, that sort of thing. Resurrected Soul says, I would like to see Spence versus Crawford, Benavidez, Charlo versus Andre. I want to see Tank versus Loma too. Oh, those are all really good fights. Some of those are in my top. Garcia versus Davis. White Play On says Garcia versus Davis. That would be a good fight too, man. That would be a real good fight. Let's talk about some of your suggestions real quick. Y'all responded right in time. I was going to jump right into mine. Resurrected Soul, you got some of the people who I was gonna actually, some of those fights you got on there was on my list. Let's talk about Spence versus Crawford. Let's talk about that as a fight. So here's the thing, man. We know all the political bullshit that's going on with Spence versus Crawford, but I don't think anybody takes the time to examine the fact that that is a good fucking fight. That is a good fight, a really good fight. Not just because Spence has some titles and Crawford has some titles. I'm talking about stylistically. I'm talking about the matchup wise. Okay. I'm talking about matchup wise. I'm talking about the fact that these dudes have some history talking some real shit to each other. You know what I'm saying? I remember both Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence telling each other that they would stop each other. I remember hearing both of them tell each other that they would stop each other. And I actually remember $1 million bet. How many of you remember that $1 million bet that Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford made the night that they met at that Maurice Hooker fight? How many of you guys remember that? They put real money up. I wonder if that has something to do with why Earl doesn't want to fight Terrence right now. But they put some real money up. There's some real bragging rights on the line for Earl and Terrence right now. So that's going to make the fight that much more hype. The fact that we got two dudes who are super, super duper competitive, who are about to, who put money up, who told each other that they were going to stop each other. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about the fact that this is going to be a great fucking fight whenever it happens. Hopefully it happens. Hopefully. Resurrected Soul says, by the way, Spence versus Crawford will never happen. Well, I just kind of mentioned that. There are many articles on articles of PBC execs flat out saying that fight won't happen. There's always Spence telling Bud and Aram to their face that and setback. Yeah. Facts. Resurrected Soul also says that AI as Bud nowhere in the plans. Yeah, he said that. But we're not talking about all that shit right now, man. We know about all the politics. We know Bud is saying, he's not even interested in Earl right now. You know what I'm saying? He's not thinking about it. He's not asking for that fight no more. And I understand where he's coming from with all that shit. To be real, I get exactly where he's coming from with it. But, again, that political shit is always going to be there. This is an excellent fucking fight. Why is it an excellent fight? Hold on, I'm going to that right now. Bud is too risky for Spence while he's being groomed and manufactured. While he's being groomed and manufactured into being groomed into the face of boxing. Yeah. Well, yeah. Very risky for Spence. But honestly, I feel like Spence has a legitimate chance of beating Bud. I think Bud would win in that fight, period. I think Bud has the edge in that fight. Okay, we're going a little bit too far ahead. But let's talk about the styles right now. Okay, Errol Spence's style is more of a pressure fighter kind of style. He's he has some slick ways about the way he fights, but ultimately he kind of likes to cut off the ring, dig to the body, and really work that body work. You know what I'm saying? Really work that body work. All good, Resurrected Soul. You good, my boy. You all good, my boy. But back on point. Earl likes to dig to the body, man. He likes to work that body. He likes to cut off the ring. He likes to put a lot of pressure. Yeah. Oh, yeah, me too. We're going to get to that, though. He likes to put a lot of pressure. You know what I'm saying? He likes to, he has a really good jab. Spence is overrated. I think so, too. But Spence is going to work that jab. I don't know. Anyone that has a really good and consistent jab is going to be hard to beat because that's how you frame everything. That's how you work off of that jab. If you can double and triple it up, you know what I'm saying, and you could throw your combinations behind that jab, I mean, you good to go. That would give anybody some trouble. Now, Bud, on the other hand, Bud is going to be able to kind of, Bud is so diverse with his style because he can pretty much adapt to any situation. He pretty much has the skills to adapt to any situation. White Play On says he worked Danny up. He worked Danny up. Yeah, he did. He definitely did. He worked on Danny real good. Beat Danny the fuck up is as bad as I've ever seen Danny beat the fuck up before. I've never seen Danny beat up that bad by anybody. You know what I'm saying? Earl Spence really did a number on Danny Garcia. Resurrected Soul says Danny was good at 140, but he could never beat his step up fights at 147. He beat win 147. His big win at 147 is Malinaji. Has Spence ever been hurt? Spence has been hurt several times. He's been hurt several times. Now, if you're talking about like dropped or staggered, I don't think he's ever been like staggered or anything like that, but he's definitely been buzzed a few times. I feel like Kell Brook buzzed him a few times. All in all, I seen Earl Spence hit by some real solid shots. Earl Spence has a very solid chin. You know what I'm saying? I don't see Bud knocking out Earl Spence. I don't see that happening. Resurrected Soul says Spence face looked like Martin after Tommy Harris beat down after the Porter fight. Yeah. He got touched up a lot in that Porter fight. That was a real tough, rugged fight for Earl Spence. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be very interesting to see Terrence Crawford versus Sean Porter if that happens. That's going to be one of the fights we're going to be talking about tonight. For sure. I know Terrence Crawford is going to let Sean Porter do half the things that he was able to do to Earl. As a matter of fact, well, back on Terrence. So Terrence has the ability to fight off of his back foot. He can fight off his front foot. Southpaw orthodox. And he's slick. He's super slick. But beyond that, he has that magical ability to adapt to any kind of situation. You know what I'm saying? And his counter punches are lethal. A lot of Bud's stoppages are like little counters, you know what I'm saying? Little things where he would catch somebody off guard as they throwing a punch and then stun them like that with a counter punch. So the way Earl fights, he likes to throw a lot of punches in bunches. You know what I'm saying? I feel like Terrence would catch him off guard with one of those little punches and kind of hurt him early. You know, not early, but hurt him somewhere around the 7th or 8th round, something like that, and make it real tough on Earl. I don't know if he would knock him out, but I feel like Earl would get stopped several times in that fight with Terrence Crawford. White Play On says anybody fighting Porter is in for a rough night. Facts. White Play On. Oh yeah, Sean Porter is going to be a tough fight for anybody. Sean Porter is going to make it a rough night for anybody. Anybody who gets in the ring with Sean Porter, you know that if you're going to beat Sean Porter, then you're you know what I'm saying? You got your work cut out for you because Sean is going to put you through the ringer. That said, Sean, anyone that has the conditioning to be able to keep up with Sean, anyone that's conditioned correctly, any top elite fighter that's conditioned correctly is going to beat Sean Porter. Sean Porter just doesn't have the boxing skills to be able to keep up with people like Earl Spence and Terrence Crawford. Even though that Earl fight was real fucking close. That was a real close fight between him and Earl. You know what I'm saying? Which is part of the reason why I think Terrence Crawford beats Earl Spence. Resurrected Soul says he can box or bang, orthodox, southpaw, going forward or off the back foot. He can punch without being planted, counter punch, elect. He can do it all. 100, Resurrected Soul, 100. He can do it all, and he can do it all easily. You know what I'm saying? But not only that, but he knows when to use what in what situation. He knows when to use what in whatever situation. You know what I'm saying? So his boxing IQ Even though you saying he could do all that, resurrected, he can do all that stuff, but his boxing IQ to me is unrivaled. Terrence Crawford. You know what I'm saying? But I just want to emphasize how great of a fight this would be, because on one end you would have Earl cutting the ring off, looking to throw body shots, looking at put his will in, throwing a bunch of jabs, doubling and tripling his jabs, throwing punches to the body and stuff like that. And on the other end, you would have Terrence on his back foot, jabbing off his back foot, looking to catch Earl slipping, counter punching, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, kind of in little spots, kind of putting Earl on his back foot. You know what I'm saying? Making Earl back up a little bit, doing little things here and there to offset Earl. It would be a great, great, great fucking fight. It really would be. It really, 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 really would be. Resurrected Soul says, right, great instincts, and he has a lot of dog. Yeah. Them dudes, none of them dudes are laying down. None of them. And we already seen how they went back and forth and they bet $1 million on the fucking fight. You know what I'm saying? I don't care how much confidence you got in yourself. You got to have a hell of a lot of confidence to bet $1 million on yourself. I don't care how much money you make. Bud's IQ is blazing, 100. Facts. But Earl don't have a bad IQ either. The way Earl Spence box circles around Mikey Garcia, that was impressive. That was very, very, very impressive on Earl Spence's part. You know what I'm saying? Before that fight, I very much underestimated Earl Spence's boxing ability. You know what I'm saying? He really proved himself with that fight. He really did. And the way he did Danny Garcia as well. That was another example of Earl Spence showing his skills. But again, when it comes to him and Terrence, I got Terrence all day in that fight. White Play On says, Bud does look strong to me. Bud blew me away with that jab to Brooke. Yeah, man. You knocking people. See, here's the thing. A lot of fighters coming up, they knock people out with jabs. It happens. It's not the most unusual thing ever. But to knock out a top level fighter with a jab like that, you know what I'm saying? That's skills. That's skills. Skills pay the bills in boxing. I'm always going to go with the fighter that has more skills. Always. 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 We're going to come back to this, but I'm going to go to another fight, man, that's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a real good one. Canelo versus Benavidez. That's one of my fights right there. Canelo versus Benavidez, man. That's a great fucking fight, man. That's a great fucking fight. First of all, they both Mexican. So, that's a big fight for Mexico. You know what I'm saying? That's a big Mexican fight. Two Mexicans, you know what I'm saying? One a former champion, one a champion. That's a big fucking fight right there. But beyond that, looking at the styles, you have David Benavidez, who he's a punches and bunches kind of dude. He's a punches and bunches kind of dude. Yes, sir, Resurrected Soul, all day. David Benavidez is a punches and bunches kind of dude, man. And Canelo's really a counter puncher. Canelo's really a catch you in spots kind of guy. He's one of those dudes. Canelo is. So if David is throwing if he's throwing a bunch of punches like what he likes to do, you know what I'm saying? And Canelo catches him in between one of those punches, it could stop David. That could be an early night for David. All those punches he likes throwing in bunches. But at the same time, because Canelo's work rate at most times is so very low, he could easily be outworked by David Benavidez. Or David Benavidez could easily just overwhelm him with the amount of punches that he throws and stop Canelo. That would be very interesting. That would be a very interesting fight. Canelo versus David Benavidez. That would be a very interesting fight. Very, very interesting. Resurrected Soul says, I believe Benavidez is the reason Canelo said he won't fight Mexicans. I suspect that as well. I feel like there are a lot of clues that point to that. 100. Resurrected Soul also says, I think Benavidez is a great fighter, especially considering his age. I think dude is about 22. He just needs better work ethic, and he's going to beat Canelo. I think so too. I think so too. I think there's a very good chance of him beating Canelo. Canelo is most definitely him and his trainers. They've done, as much as I do not agree with a lot of what Canelo does. I mean, there's a lot, bro. I could go down. I could do a whole live talking about Canelo. As much as I do not agree with what Canelo does and how he moves, his trainers have done a very good job moving him in a way where they're matching him up with certain fighters that would be easy matchups for him. So it works out to where Canelo gets a good name on his resume. He gets a good name, but really the stylistic matchup works out in a way where Canelo's in a good situation. He's fighting a style he likes to fight. Really, he's fighting one of those styles that he likes. Canelo has maybe like 2 or 3 styles that he really likes. You know what I'm saying? He got about 2 or 3 styles that he really likes, and he looks for opponents that fit that criteria. You know what I'm saying? And if they have a big name and if they have a belt, that's even better for Canelo. But he stays away from certain little styles that give him problems, and Benavidez is one of those styles. He does not like punches and bunches. He does not like slick fighters. Benavidez is a punches and bunches kind of guy. But here's the thing. As far as Benavidez is concerned, his style versus Canelo's style, to me, would make for a very entertaining fight. Because it'd be like one of those fights where you kind of sitting at the edge of your seat, like waiting for, you know what I mean? You trying to see what's happening, because if you turn away for a second, somebody could get knocked out. Because David's throwing a million punches and Canelo's trying to time him coming in. But just as easily as they could both stop each other, they could both win. And that's what Canelo doesn't like. That's what Canelo doesn't like. And here's the thing. I think people like Demetrius Andrade and Jamal Charlo, I think people like that should definitely take preference over David Benavidez as far as a shot at Canelo. But I feel like those fights wouldn't be as good as a Benavidez versus Canelo, because them dudes are more slick. Them dudes are going to more outbox Canelo. A Benavidez versus Canelo fight is going to be a edge of your seat. I'm losing my breath. I can't turn away for a second because anything can happen. White Play On says, I like Canelo's defense. Yeah, Canelo got a pretty good defense. He has a pretty good. He's gotten a lot better since he fought Floyd Mayweather. You know what I mean? He's learned how to move his head a lot more. He's not as stiff. You know what I'm saying? He's definitely gotten a lot better. White Play On also says Benavidez is scary. He has a body like Chavez Sr., not real muscular, but way strong and in conditioned. Yeah. Oh yeah, man. You gotta be in condition to throw all them damn punches that David Benavidez fights. You know how David Benavidez fights to me? You guys remember Paul Williams back in the day, man? Paul Williams, he used to throw a bunch of punches like that. He kind of reminds me a little bit of David Benavidez. Also, Joe Kawasaki, he was another one that fought like that, punches and bunches, and throwing a whole lot at one point, and just kind of balls to the wall with all the punches. Amir Khan was another one. You know what I'm saying? Amir Khan could have got a lot farther with that style if his chin was a little better. He would have beat a lot of guys. You know what I'm saying? Amir Khan. But yes, sir, that would be a really, 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 really good fight. Really good fight. You know what I'm saying? But let's move on to the next fight, man. Here's a fight that may happen very, very, very soon. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of like this fight better than what's on the table. And I'm going to tell you why. And that's Sean versus Bud. Sean versus Bud is a very good fight, man. Terrence Crawford and Sean Porter is a very, very good fight. Just like we were talking about Sean earlier. I probably should have led with that. Sean Porter makes anyone who he fights very uncomfortable. Very, very, very uncomfortable because of what he likes to do. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to be very interesting to see how Bud adapts to what Sean brings to the table. Because the mauling and the charging that Sean likes to do, I think so too. Yeah, I was going there with you. Resurrected Soul says Bud is gonna KO Sean. I think so too. I think he's gonna KO Sean too. But I'm interested in seeing how he adapts, how Bud adapts to Sean Porter. It's not an easy style to adapt to. There's no other Sean Porters in boxing right now. Bud versus Porter, yes. White Play On says, yes, sir. Great fight. Excellent fight. There's no other Seans in boxing right now. Sean is going to put his head down and he's going to rush Terrence Crawford and he's going to do 12 rounds. He's going to do it for 12 rounds. And it's very tough to time Sean because Sean has actually gotten better. You know what I'm saying? He's actually gotten better. He continues to improve. And I see that. Because Sean, it seems like what he does now is he takes little breaks in between rushing. You know what I'm saying? Sean like incorporates fighting on his back foot sometimes. Every once in a while, you'll see Sean step back and try to fight off a jab and do little things here and there to kind of switch it up. Every once in a while, you see Sean do that. White Play On says Porter is a pressure fighter like Frazier without the power. He definitely is. I agree with that 100%. He's definitely a pressure fighter by nature. But you can see that with Sean's fights now, he kind of mixes it up a little bit more now. He mixes it up just a little bit more now. So it's a little tougher to time Sean. It's a little tougher now to time Sean when he's coming in because you're not quite sure when he's going to be coming in because he mixes it up. Resurrected Soul says Sean is pillow fisted and can't wear out Bud because Bud's conditioning is top notch. I got him coming forward thinking he's about to maul and then getting KO'd. Bud can wrestle too, so those tactics won't work. I agree, my boy. I agree. But there's definitely going to be a little transition period in between where Bud figures that out. There's going to be some time because you know what, a lot of what Bud fights is he usually loses like the first maybe like 3 rounds or 4 rounds. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes. And then he ends up figuring out his opponent and then turning around and stopping him. He may need a little bit more time with Sean. And he may not be able to kind of like hold back as long as he would with other fights. He may not be able to he may have to be more competitive early on as to not get too behind versus Sean. He may not be able to use that tactic. Caps in full, what's going on, my G? What's going on with you? Touchdown in your chest. Need to stop Porter. Let's see. Need to stop Porter. Need to stop smothering his punches. Yes, he does. But I like Porter. Porter does need to stop smothering his punches. He definitely does. But that's a part of his game, though. Porter's not really going to knock anybody out. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to knock anyone out. If anything, what Sean Porter is going to do is he's going to outwork you for 12 rounds. That's what he's going to do. If you're not in top physical condition, Sean Porter is going to fuck around and beat you. You know what I'm saying? We see it. Honestly, when he fought Adrian Broner, Broner's a much better boxer than Sean Porter. But what did Sean do? Sean outworked him. I think Danny's a better boxer than Sean. I think there's a lot of fighters out here that are way better fighters technically than Sean Porter. But Sean is going to be in top physical condition and he's going to outwork you. Or he's going to try to outwork you. And if you let him outwork you, you're going to lose. You're going to lose to Sean. Bud need to pivot, switch, and punch on the back foot fighting Porter. Captain Full says. Facts. He's gonna need this. He's gonna need to pivot. He's gonna need to work that ring. He's gonna have to give Sean some angles. He's gonna have to make Sean think about coming in, meaning catching him with some good counter punches coming in. You know what I'm saying? So Sean is not so, because Sean gets real reckless. Sean gets real reckless. If he doesn't feel nothing coming at him, he'll just jump in there. White Play On says Lomo versus the 140-pound. Lomo versus any 140-pound champion. Loma has the skill set to give any 140-pounder trouble. I think 135 is his best weight. Lomachenko would be a difficult fight for anybody just because of his skills. Just because of his skills. Does Loma beat Josh Taylor? I don't know. Josh Taylor got skills, very long. The kind of style that Loma doesn't really like. The kind of style Loma does not really like. That would be a good fight, though. 100%. I'm all for that fight. Yeah, we can make that happen. I like that one. Loma and Josh Taylor. Yeah, I would definitely watch that one. 100%. But back on Sean Porter versus Terrence Crawford. Back on Sean and Terrence. The contrast in styles to me is just what would make this a very entertaining fight. You know what I'm saying? It would be a very entertaining fight as long as it lasts, because I do agree with my boy Resurrected. My boy Resurrected, who said that? Yeah, my boy Resurrected Soul said that he thinks Bud will stop him. I think Bud will stop him too, because Bud will figure it out. Bud has the IQ where he would figure out that timing eventually. And he would catch Sean coming in and he would stop Sean. He'd put him on his ass. Resurrected Soul says, I think 130 was Loma's best weight. Yeah, that definitely was his best weight. Ever since he moved to 135, he was having issues. Ever since he moved up to 135, Loma was having issues for sure. You know what I'm saying? You know, he was barely getting by fighters at 135. So if he went up to 140, I don't think he would have too much success at 140, but he's going to be a difficult fight for anybody who he fights simply because of his skill set. He's going to make for a difficult fight for anybody at 140. Yes, Resurrected Soul 130. Okay. All right. Yeah, for sure. Good fight. He was his best at 130. Loma was. For sure. Yeah, man, but Sean and Terrence, great fight, man. But let me give you another fight that I like. Another fight that I like, man. Another fight that I really like. Demetrius Andrade and Triple G. Demetrius Andrade and Triple G. That would be a damn good fight. That will be a damn good fight. Demetrius Andrade and Triple G. A damn good fight. That would be a damn good fight. I gotta say that shit over and over because that's how good of a fucking fight that would be. Demetrius Andrade and Triple G would make for a fucking good fight. Why? Why would that be a good fight? Well, let's talk about the fact that these dudes have history. Demetrius Andrade and Triple G. Demetrius Andrade showed up at Triple G's press conference looking for fights. Triple G kind of wrote him off. You know what I'm saying? Triple G's been kind of ducking and dodging Demetrius Andrade. They all have over there at 160. But they have history. But aside from the history, the stylistic matchup of Demetrius Andrade and Triple G to me would be like the fight of the century. The fight of the century. Triple G is going to come in. He's going to be looking for body shots. He's going to be throwing overhand rights. GGG will never take that fight. Resurrected Soul says GGG will never take that fight, especially at this stage in his career. Damn right. But we're talking about the best fights right now. And this would be a damn good fight if it ever happened. This would make my day if it ever happened. GGG and Demetrius Andrade. GGG is going to be coming forward. He's going to be, you know what I'm saying? He's going to be moving his head a little. He don't really move his head too much. He's going to be moving his head a little bit like GGG does. But he's going to be throwing a lot of body shots. He's going to be cutting off the ring. Okay? But as he's coming in, Demetrius Andrade is going to be on his back foot. And here's the thing about Demetrius Andrade. Here's why these dudes are so scared of Demetrius Andrade, right? These dudes are really scared of Demetrius Andrade because not only is Demetrius Andrade one of those slick fighters, not only is he super slick and he could pot shot you and counter punch you all night, not only is he a slick fighter that has the ability to do that, but the thing about it is he doesn't do that. Demetrius Andrade actually prefers to beat you the fuck up. That's why I really don't get why there's so many people out here who hate on Demetrius Andrade, because that guy goes out of his way to not only win, but beat you the fuck up. He doesn't want to win. He wants to beat you the fuck up. He's going to throw a bunch of punches. They're all going to be accurate. They're all going to be sharp. Okay. And then while he's throwing a bunch of punches and hitting you, you're not going to be hitting him. You're not going to be touching him. Because those long arms and that distance and that length is just going to give him a huge advantage. That slickness, that boxing ability, you're not going to be able to hit him. But while you're not hitting him, he's going to beat you the fuck up. And a good example of that is Andrade versus Brian Rose. I've never seen anybody get beat the fuck up as bad as I saw Brian Rose get beat the fuck up by Demetrius Andrade. Definitely one of the top 5 ass whoopings I've ever seen in my life. For sure. White Play On says Andrade versus Jermell or Jamal Charlo. Those would be great fights. Those would be really, really, really great fights. But those to me would be chess matches. You know what I'm saying? Those would be more like chess matches. You know what I mean? Terry Smooth, shout out to you, my boy. Jerry Smooth says, hit that like button, family. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Shout out to you, Terry. Yes, sir. But yes, back on point. So Andrade versus Charlo would be more like a chess match. It'd be more like a chess match because Charlo doesn't throw too many punches. Charlo's going to be very conservative about the amount of punches that he's throwing. He's going to be looking to knock out Andrade, while at the same time, Andrade's going to be throwing a bunch of punches, more than likely hitting him with a bunch of punches, but you're not going to see Jermell do too much. Andrade versus Triple G would be a better fight. It would be a better fight, entertainment-wise. I think Jamal Charlo versus Andrade or Jermell Charlo versus Andrade, that would be a bigger fight. That would mean more, but as far as a better fight, Triple G versus Andrade would be a better fight. Terry Smooth says Andrade is too slick of a mover. And also Terry Smooth says Andrade can move, he can stick, he can move. Yes, sir. We were just talking about that. Yes, sir, Terry. Andrade can stick and move, man. He can get in and get out of here. But not only can he stick and move, Andrade is going to hit you with 35 punches in about 2 seconds. He throws a lot of punches and they're all accurate. So not only can he fight off his back foot and be slick, but he can also outpoint you and just hit you a lot and beat you the fuck up. And that's why these dudes don't want to fuck with Andrade, because they're two of the styles he can fight. He fights two of the styles that people don't like. Earlier in the stream, I said Canelo doesn't like slick fighters, and he doesn't like fighters that throw punches and bunches. He doesn't like those kind of fighters. He doesn't like fighters that throw a lot of punches like that. Because if you see, Amir Khan was actually beating Canelo until he got knocked the fuck out. Amir Khan was actually beating Canelo until he got knocked the fuck out. If that fight would have went on like that with Amir Khan, Canelo would have lost. Easily. He easily would have lost. So can you imagine somebody like a Demetrius Andrade throwing as many punches as Amir Khan, just as sharp, but also being able to not get hit and not get knocked out at the same time like Amir Khan got knocked out? Because Andrade actually has a pretty decent chin as far as what we can see. We don't really know because people can't touch him. But that would be a very hard night for Andrade. So that's the kind of style that people fear. People fear that style. Terry Smooth says, GGG doesn't want these young black champs, youth and power. He doesn't. He doesn't. He's been running for years now. He has no shame at this point. We know what the deal is with GGG. We know what it is. GGG is looking for his last Canelo fight, and he's probably going to retire. We know exactly what it is, Terry. GGG is waiting on this last Canelo fight, and then he's out of there. You know what I'm saying? He figured he gonna line up all bums until Canelo comes back around. That's what GGG doing. You know what I'm saying? I would be shocked if GGG decided to fight anybody who we cared about. White Play On says, Andrade. Terry Spoon says, Amir Khan was all up on the scorecards until his chin got touched. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Once that chin was touched, it was a short night. It was a very short night once that chin got touched. Yes, sir. Terry Smooth says, Andrade is a bad style matchup for a lot because of his punches and combos with movement, and he's 6'1", and he's a big middleweight. Yes, sir. 100%, Terry. 155%. That is a bad matchup for a lot of dudes. That's why people don't want to see Demetrius Andrade. Because not only can he outpoint you, but if he wanted to, he could be slick and pot shot you to death if he wanted to. White Play On says, how do you compare Andrade's style to Lara? So here's the thing. Lara is half of what Andrade is, right? Lara is very slick, and he's a very good counterpuncher. That's pretty much what he does. He's slick, and he's a counterpuncher. Okay, but ultimately, you're not going to find Lara throwing more than 2 punches at a time. Lara's not going to throw more than 2 punches at one time. He's going to throw 1-2. That's it. He's going to throw 1-2. That's it. And he's going to move. That's what Lara's going to do. That's what Lara is going to do. Andrade is going to hit you with 4 or 5 punches at one time. Andrade is going to slip your jab, throw a hook, throw a left hook to the body, throw a right hook to the body, throw a right hook to the head, and then a straight right hand. He's going to do all that. Lara's not doing all that. Lara is not doing all that. Not by any means. You know what I'm saying? Lara's going to hit you with that 1-2, and he's out of there. He's running. He's gone. He's on the other side of the ring. So, yeah, man, very, very different styles. Andrade, if he wanted to, he could fight like Lara. As a matter of fact, his fights would probably go a lot easier if he did. But Andrade is just not under that. He's not under that mindset that Lara is. Lara is under that Cuban militant style where, you know what I mean, where you just have that one style and you fight that way, and that's how you fight. Andrade is like, I'm going to beat you the fuck up. I'm going to beat you the fuck up. If shit get rough, maybe I might do with a little bit of what Lara does, but ultimately I want to beat you the fuck up. Terry Smooth says, this is true. Punches, combos, and bunches versus pure counterpuncher. Yes, sir. 100%. White Play On says Andrade is a problem. Yes, sir. Very much a problem. That's why these dudes don't want to see him. It's why these dudes don't want to see him. These dudes don't want none of Andrade. Not none. not none. You know what I mean? Terry Smooth says a conservative counterpuncher versus a slick counter-aggressive fighter. Yeah. Yeah. Lara is very conservative. You know what I'm saying? It would be like, even when Lara fought Canelo, Lara could have beat Canelo. A lot of people think Lara beat Canelo. A lot of people think Lara beat Canelo. Okay, but Lara could have really solidified that win if he would have put some punches in, if he would have put a few more punches in there. He could have really solidified that win if he would have threw a few more shots. If he would have made it a 1-2-3-4 instead of a 1-2 and moving about the way. Now, Canelo was real dangerous because Canelo was looking for that. You know what I'm saying? And that's not a style that Lara is used to fighting, and Lara is not trying to take any kind of risks in fights. But that's how you're going to beat Canelo. You're not going to beat Canelo by throwing one or two punches. Even if you like win the fight, you're not going to win the fight on the scorecards because Canelo is, you know what I mean? We're not doing the politics shit tonight. But you got to beat Canelo in order to beat Canelo. Resurrected Soul says Andrade is more versatile than Lara. I need to go back and watch more of his fights. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A good fight to watch. I'm gonna give you two to watch from Andrade. Watch Andrade versus Brian Rose. That was a good fight to watch. Simply because he just beat Brian Rose the fuck up. Okay, and another good fight to watch from him is Andrade versus Vanez Martirosyan. That was another good fight for him because he was tested a little bit in that fight. He got dropped in that fight. Versus Martirosyan. Okay, but still came back and won the fight. So that says a lot. Somebody that get dropped, still come back and win convincingly. On top of that, that's a good fight for you to watch. Terry Smooth says Lara would have solidified the win if he would have kept the aggression and ring generalship in the later rounds. Yes, and they called it a split decision win versus Lara. I think Lara solidified. I think Lara, you know what I'm saying? I think Lara actually won that fight, and I think that his corner was telling him that he won that fight. That's probably part of the reason why he didn't step more on the gas. But at the same time, that's just Lara. That's just how he is. Lara's not stepping on. Lara will have you hurt. Lara will have you on wobbly legs and still continue to just pot shot you. Lara will have you hurt and ready to go, but still pot shot you all the way to the 12th round. He will still do that. That was one of the most aggravating things about Lara. Because you only do that shit until you hurt somebody and then you step on the gas. But Lara would still play it conservative and still continue to pot shot and stay on the outside and move around, even when he has the person out of there. Even when he has the person. I don't remember the last person Lara locked out. If any of you guys remember, put it in the chat. Because I don't even remember the last person Lara knocked out. You know what I'm saying? For real. For real. Terry Smooth says Lara reminds me of Ugas. They hurt people, but they never put them to bed. Yep. They just leave you hurt and allow you to recover. Yep. That's them in a nutshell. They ain't trying to take no risks at all. They know that if they try to stop you, there's a good chance that they could get hurt and they could get stopped themselves. So they like, fuck all that. I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to just cruise on to the 12th round. That's how they do it. You know what I'm saying? No killer. White Play On says no killer instinct. Yeah, no killer instinct, man. And that's one thing I really like about dudes like Bud and Andrade. Because Bud, if he see you hurt, if Terrence Crawford has an inkling in his mind that you're hurt, oh, he's all over you. He's all over you. He's throwing 3,000 punches until you knocked out. You know what I'm saying? Terry Smooth says, do Lara and Ugas have KO power? They do. Lara has legit power. Ugas not so much. I don't know if Ugas really has good power like that. But Lara has legit power. You would see Lara literally stun people. He would stagger them with that left hand. He would stagger them with that straight left hand, like Adonis Stevenson. You would see him stagger people with that left hand. And then Lara would just keep moving around, just keep moving around the ring. Just keep doing whatever he was doing. You don't know what the fuck is going on. You like, Lara, you got the dude hurt, knock him out. Go for the knockout. Lara's like, I'm good. I'm going to keep this shit going to the 12th round. That's literally his thing. Ugas is not as conservative to me as Lara is, but you can see that Cuban, we're not going to risk it. You can see that ideology in Ugas. And all the Cuban fighters. Rigondeaux, he's another one. But Rigondeaux to me is a better boxer than both of them. But you can see it. Yeah. I really like the Terry Smooth says, "Oh, poor Adonis Stevenson." I really like the Adonis Stevenson man too. That was one of my guys, man. I like the Adonis. But yeah, man. Yeah, man. It's rough. It's rough. 100. But yeah, man. Let's move on to the next fight, man. But hold on. But real quick, man. GGG versus Demetrius Andrade is a great fight. Stylistically, you have Andrade, okay, fighting off of his back foot, throwing punches and bunches, counter punching, doing a bunch of different things to offset what Triple G's doing. And you have Triple G cutting the ring off, throwing body shots, okay, looking to try to go toe to toe. Really good fight. Really good fight. But we'll go on to the next fight. Terry Smooth Jr. says, I think Cuban boxers have that long fight mentality. Yeah. Rigondeaux and Luis Ortiz are some of the better Cuban fighters. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Luis Ortiz is the opposite, man. Luis Ortiz trying to get you up out of there. I guess because he a heavyweight and he probably has more success, knocking bitches out and that sort of thing. But you know what? I take that back a little bit because Luis Ortiz, he's not gonna really press the knockout either. Luis Ortiz isn't gonna like. He's not gonna press the issue. If he stop you, he stop you. You know, he's one of them dudes that'll just catch you clean and just knock you the fuck out. And because he's a big dude and he's a heavyweight, you're out of there. White Play On says they told him that he gets paid by the round. Oh man, I don't know what the fuck goes on with Lara and these dudes, man. I don't know what the fuck goes on with them, man. I mean, you can't on one hand, you can't fault what they're doing. You can't fault what they're doing because, a lot of times safe wins the race. You know what I'm saying? You can say that, but that's just boring as fuck, man. Don't nobody want to see that shit. Don't nobody want to see that shit. And when you got somebody stunned, when you got somebody on wobbly legs, when you got people doing a stanky leg and shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, finish the fucking job, bro. Finish the fucking job. Like, at least take a little bit more risk. You know what I'm saying? In order to get that shit done. But these dudes, they hang out and, all right, let's keep it going 12 rounds. You know what I'm saying? They just keep it going 12 rounds. Whatever. That's how they do it. You know what I'm saying? But here goes another good fight. This is going to be my final good fight for the night, man. You know what I'm saying? This is going to be my final good fight for the night, man. But what would be another good fight to me? Y'all might laugh at me a little bit. I think Keith Thurman versus Terrence Crawford would be a good fight. Crawford and a few of them. I think Thurman and Earl is a really good fight. And I think Thurman and Terrence is a really good fight. I think those are two really good fights. First of all, Keith Thurman is always in really good fucking fights. Keith Thurman is always in really good fucking fights. Always. I don't remember a Keith Thurman fight that wasn't good, that didn't have drama in it, that didn't have you like about to fucking pass the fuck out because you don't know what's going to happen. I don't remember a Keith Thurman fight that wasn't incredibly entertaining. Incredibly entertaining. Even when he fought Danny Garcia. When he beat up on Danny early, and then you can see Danny catch him with a few shots, and Keith kind of back off a little bit after feeling Danny's power, and kind of like shelling off and moving around the ring and that sort of thing. And then in other fights where you see Keith get hurt to the body and then topple over and then kind of collect himself and then get himself back up and then move around the ring a little bit more and, you know what I'm saying, and throw more punches and things like that. You know what I'm saying? I think both Keith Thurman and Terrence and Keith and Earl would make for very entertaining fights. Very entertaining. Terry Smooth say, I'm sorry, White Play On says, I'm sorry. Well, White Play On says Oscar Valdez versus Davis or Shakur. Yeah. Oscar Valdez definitely proved himself, man, this weekend. For sure, for sure. He definitely proved himself. He proved that he got real boxing skills. For sure, for sure. Yeah. No doubt about it, man. He proved he got real boxing skills. And he would be a threat for anybody. I don't think he beats Tank, and I don't think he beats Shakur, though. I can tell you that. I don't think he beats any of those guys. But I think those are good fights. Based on how he fought Burchell, I think the fight with Shakur is more of a chess match now. I think it's more of a chess match now. But Shakur has the better boxing skills, ultimately. So Shakur is going to win that. Shakur is going to win that. You know? But the good part about what's going on right now is they're talking about actually making that fight happen. But I'm just kind of wondering, like, how long before somebody gets into Valdez's ears and and tells him what I just said. Like, hey, man, you fought well, but maybe you need a few more fights before you get in there with Shakur or Tank. I wonder how long before somebody gets in his ear and tells him that. You know what I'm saying? Valdez Loma, great fight. Terry Smooth says. Valdez Loma. Yes, that's a great fight. I like that one. Resurrected Soul says, I agree, but not with Thurman on a 2-year layoff. Plus, he's not really durable. I don't know. Got to rock with Bud on that one. I think Bud wins that fight. Resurrected. I just think it's a really good fight. So I haven't talked about why I think it's a really good fight. And that's the thing. Tonight, I'm talking about really good fights. You know what I'm saying? Fights that I think that are really good fucking fights. And I think both Thurman and Earl and Thurman and Crawford are really good fights. So this is why I think Thurman and Crawford is a good fight. So when it comes to, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna be spitting on my goddamn. So when it comes to Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford. Terrence is very. He has the ability to adapt to pretty much any style. Okay, he has the ability to adapt to pretty much any style. But Keith Thurman's style is a little unique. It's a little unique. Because to me, right, Terry Smooth says, has Bud fought a serious puncher? Has he fought a serious puncher? Very good point, Terry. I don't know that he has. I don't know that he has fought a serious puncher. Keith is going to bring that power. Not only that, but we've seen Terrence chin checked a few times. We've seen him staggered. We've seen him dropped. We've seen Bud in different situations where if you have the power, or if you catch him, just like anyone else, you can put him down. So Keith has a puncher's chance, but in addition to that, Keith Thurman has a real boxing IQ that he really doesn't get credit for. Keith Thurman has a real boxing IQ that he doesn't get enough credit for. I think Keith Thurman will give Bud a very tough fight. I think Bud still wins. That fight. But I think Keith Thurman gives him a good fight because I think it turns into a bit of a chess match where Bud has to figure him out. Keith Thurman. Okay, and while he's figuring him out, he has to worry about that puncher's chance. He has to worry about it. I think Keith Thurman gives Bud the toughest fight at welterweight. I said this a few years ago, and I'm seeing it again. I think Keith Thurman gives Bud Crawford the toughest fight at welterweight. So that's tougher than Earl Spence. That's tougher than Manny Pacquiao. That's tougher than anyone else because I think Bud beats everybody at welterweight. But I think that Keith Thurman gives Bud Crawford the toughest fight at welterweight. Resurrected Soul says, okay, hold on. Okay, I'm missing some stuff. Hold on. Let me go back up. Terry Smooth says, Thurman versus Bud is all bad for Bud. I think he still wins that fight, but I think it's very tough. I think it's very tough for Bud. I think it's a lot tougher for Bud than he or anyone else realizes right now. Because people really aren't giving Keith Thurman credit right now. People are really writing Keith Thurman off. And I get that he's coming off a 2-year layoff. I get that. But he came off a 2-year layoff and still gave Manny Pacquiao a pretty good motherfucking fight. He gave Manny a pretty good motherfucking fight. And he could have probably beat Manny had he done a few things a little differently. He probably would have beat Manny Pacquiao. So I think people are definitely underestimating Keith Thurman. Again, I think he gives Bud the toughest fight at welterweight. Most definitely. All right. Terry Smooth says, I personally think Thurman versus Bud is a bad stylistic matchup. Keith beats Bud. Keith beat Bud in the amateurs and at US Nationals. Oh, I didn't even know that. He has Bud's number. I didn't even know that. Terry. I didn't even know that. You just schooled me on that. I didn't even know Thurman beat Bud in the amateurs. I didn't know that. I did not know that. He beat him in the amateurs? Wow. So what I'm saying is very much on point. Very much on point. Yes, sir. Resurrected Soul says, I think Mean Machine was a serious puncher. Mean Machine was an okay puncher, but you can't give him the same amount of a puncher's chance that you would give Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman hurts people with his punches. Even Sean Porter said that Keith Thurman was the hardest puncher that he's ever fought. And Sean Porter's been hit by everybody. Sean Porter's been hit by everybody. He said Keith was the toughest fight that he ever had, and he said that Keith hit the hardest that he had ever been hit. Keith Thurman hits really, really, really hard. You know what I'm saying? But Mean Machine was a good puncher, but I think Keith Thurman is just on another level, 100%. Resurrected Soul also says he is underrated. He was ranked 5 in the WBO and 6 in the WBC. Resurrected, you talking about Mean Machine? Resurrected Soul also says you could literally hear Mean Machine punches loud as fuck. I was like, damn, surprised. Bud seemed unaffected by the most part. Different levels though to me. Resurrected also says I looked up a fight between Thurman and Bud in the amateurs and found nothing. I know Bud faced Mikey Garcia and Ugas and Danny Garcia, but I don't see anything on Thurman. Well, I don't know about that either. Terry says that. Terry, if you got a link or something like that where we could find information on that, drop that bitch, man. Drop that motherfucker, man, because that's new shit to me too. I never heard that before. It wouldn't surprise me though. It would not surprise me. You know what I'm saying? I can see Keith Thurman's style giving Bud some issues. I can see it. You know what I'm saying? I can see it 100%. I think that would be a really good fight. And then there's Thurman versus Earl. I think that's a really good fight. Thurman versus Earl is a really good fight. I like that fight. Okay, because you're gonna have Earl cutting the ring off, looking to throw a bunch of body shots. Bro, Terry Smooth says, bro, there's a whole interview where Bud Crawford says he knows Keith Thurman from the amateurs. He knows Keith Thurman from the amateur. Okay, we talking about okay. Hey Terry, don't say nothing if you got a link, man. Drop that bitch, bro. Drop it. You know what I'm saying? But yes, sir. Thurman versus Earl, a great fucking fight, man. Thurman versus Earl is a great fight. People sleep on that fight now because people wanted that fight back in the day for a reason, not just because Earl had the IBF and because Thurman had the WBC and the WBA. That's just a really good stylistic matchup. That's just a really good stylistic matchup. You know what I'm saying? Yes, sir. That's a really good stylistic matchup because you're gonna have Keith Thurman. He's gonna be fighting off his back foot. He's gonna be moving around the ring, but at the same time, he's gonna be counterpunching. He's gonna pick his little spots in between. Okay, he's gonna throw 3 and 4 punches at one time at Earl. And Earl is gonna be trying to cut the ring off. He's gonna be trying to go to his body, and we seen Keith get hurt to the body a few times. That's gonna be a very entertaining fight. I really, really like that fight, Keith Thurman versus Earl Spence. You know what I mean? It's a shame that right now Earl is talking about he has no intentions of fighting Keith Thurman, which is crazy because he fought Danny Garcia, he fought Sean Porter. Those dudes weren't really trying to fight him. You know what I'm saying? At that time, those dudes really wasn't trying to fight him at the time. You know what I'm saying? So why not fight Keith Thurman? That's a great fight right there. That's a great, great, great fight. That's a great fight, and anything can happen in that fight. I could see Keith Thurman outboxing Earl. As a matter of fact, it's a matter of fact, if I got a 100% Keith Thurman, and I was confident that it was a 100% Keith Thurman, I could see him beating Earl Spence. I think Keith Thurman would be Earl Spence. A 100% Keith Thurman, not a Keith Thurman coming off a 2-year layoff. A Keith Thurman coming off a 2-year layoff, that'd be a different story. Earl might get him in that. But a Keith Thurman with a few fights under his belt, kind of sharp, back to the old Keith Thurman, a 2016 or 2017 Keith Thurman, he beats Earl Spence to me. I think he outboxes Earl Spence, gives him angles that he can't really adapt to, and beats him. I think it's a tough fight. I think it's definitely a tough fight, which explains why Keith wasn't in a rush to fight Earl Spence. But I think that can also be said about Earl Spence. That's why he's not looking for a Keith Thurman fight, because he equally acknowledges the fact that a Keith Thurman fight is just as difficult. A Keith Thurman fight is just as difficult. Because for me, if I'm Earl Spence, if I see a Keith Thurman coming off of a 2-year layoff, and if I feel like that's an easy fight, that's still a credible name. If I'm Earl Spence, I'm going to go ahead and give him that shot right now, and I'm going to go ahead and knock his ass out. If I'm Earl Spence and I feel like it's sweet like that. You know what I'm saying? Let's read some of the comments. Let's see what's going on. Read some of these comments in here. Resurrected Soul says, right. Let's see the link. Very interesting. I don't usually have a problem looking these fights up. Danny beats the kids. But in the black white tournament, they were all older, a little older than Bud one. Resurrected says he knows him from the amateurs. I saw that interview and read the articles, but there's no record of an actual fight. Terry Smoot says, Google Terrence Crawford, Thurman amateurs, an article from Boxing News 24. Anybody watching that? Terry says, this is sad. People don't know boxing. Terry, I didn't even know that, man. I didn't even know that he beat Terrence in the amateurs. I didn't even know that. You know what I'm saying? Resurrected Soul says, I think Spence is ducking Thurman now. He claims to be mad at Thurman sooner, sunned him back in the day, but Danny and Sean did that too, and Spence still fought them. He was a clout chaser. I agree with that 150%. You mad about Keith Thurman not fighting you, but Danny and Sean didn't want to fight him either. Danny and Sean was not trying to see Earl Spence. At the time, Earl Spence was still a prospect. You know what I'm saying? I mean, not prospect. We're not gonna say prospect, but he was like a contender. He was like one of those dudes to watch. He was like kind of like how what's the Philly dude, the young Philly dude? What's his name? He was kind of how Boots Ennis is right now. Except he had probably just got that IBF belt off of what's it called? Kell Brook. But also beat Mikey Garcia and Olios in the amateurs. But I don't see Keith anywhere. Okay. But yeah, man, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this live, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry it happened so abruptly. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this live. I appreciate everybody for rocking with me thus far, man. If you haven't already, make sure you like the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, man. I appreciate all you guys, man. I will be back on Friday. Hopefully, I see you guys on Friday for late night boxing talk. We could chop up this good shit, man. But until next time, man, I will holler at y'all. Peace.